Who saw Conor Benn last night? Did you
Me.
both catch that?
I didn't see it.
I thought, Gary, it was a decent enough workout. I thought he looked pretty sharp. I thought I thought he looked good. Putting the whole scandal of whether he should be fighting or not and the drug test to one side, I thought it was a decent 10-round workout that had done him a lot of good against a really tough, big game opponent who came to fight. What's your thoughts?
I thought it was a brilliant performance. Not even good, brilliant. I'll tell you for why. He never got touched much at all. He showed great defense. He showed fantastic movement. And what he did show was also really good intellect. He went 10 rounds and he looked as sharp in the 10th as he did in the first. He showed that he can adjust. He hit the guy with some amazing shots. The guy's never been stopped in 38 fights or something like that. And the kid could fight. And I just think I thought I saw a very mature for Conor's experience, a very mature performance. He did everything right. He was on every step of the fight. He adjusted when he knew he was not going to get the guy out. He then changed the plan a little, but still kept trying to get him out, but didn't over try. But what I was amazed at was he had incredible defense.
Okay, is that Moses Aitama's record just appeared on the screen?
Yeah, that is.
Okay,
5-0.
cool. How many? 5-0, perfect. So Gary was cool there. Okay, let's lose that and get back to Gary's godlike visage. Perfect. Yeah. So, we're buttering him up because he's been away for a couple of weeks and we don't want him, we don't want to attempt again. So go on, Gary, keep going.
No, so we all know we can bang. We all know what he showed for me was he's much more versatile than people give him credit for. And you've got to remember, almost 2 years out the ring, he had the most ridiculous amount of pressure. It's not like a normal 2 years out. He had a dramatic 2 years out. Then he had the pressure. Then he had the pressure of all of the stuff that happened to him, which, for his head is not great. Long layoffs, we know for a fact. His timing was great, but what was really great was his ringmanship and his defense. He was a complete fighter, and I thought he was brilliant performance.
Do you think that happens because, listen, when it's a fight you're supposed to win. They're giving you a fight you're supposed to win, so you're going there without any hesitation. You're going in there with copious amounts of confidence. How much of it is that, and how much of it is he really did have this crazy ability that you're talking about? Like I said, I didn't see the fight at all. I don't know. I've seen maybe
the kid he fought has got a very good record, and everyone said, and it was not an easy fight to come back on. The kid's never been stopped, even if he's supposed to win or whatever. He got into a really decent fight, but competitive fight, and so
that means the kid was hitting him as well.
Everybody says it's supposed to go a certain way, but let's say it doesn't. He then adjusted, and he was brilliant. He just did everything right, and I just thought it was great.
What were the things of brilliance? That's what I want to say. You were saying what things was he doing that was brilliant? Beautiful
movement, beautiful. He would nail the guy. The guy would hit him. He'd be underneath, turn him on the. I mean, real ring craftsmanship.
Generalship, yeah. He did
look good. He really did. When you see it, Michael, I think you'll be very impressed.
It was a pretty complete performance, and the other guy. You never know with these Mexicans sometimes, whether they're relatively obscure. They've had 32 wins, 3 losses, and a couple of draws. You don't know how good they are, but the guy was tough as a $2 steak.
And the guy had about 28 knockouts, Ben, as well. He was a banger.
I didn't see the KO percentage, but yeah, and the guy looked massive as well. The guy looked like he was about 160 by the time he got in the ring.
And he moved up a weight. So, I mean, every single thing against him, he moved up a weight. He's 2 years out. All of the trauma.
Well, not quite 2 years. He last boxed in April last year.
18 months.
About 14 months. So that's 16 months.
Okay, I'll give you 16 months.
All right.
Okay, but it's a long time. It's a long time out, Ben.
Yeah.
If you'd had 16 months without seeing the wife, it's a long time, Ben.
It was, and some people inevitably, Gary, were jumping on it, even when they'd heard he'd gone the distance and then perhaps hadn't even seen it. They were saying, oh, he hasn't got the power now. He's not on the eggs anymore. No peds equals no power. That, I think, is a very a very
he
wooden
hit the guy
narrative
with
to
some
jump
great
to.
shots. He hit the kid with some great shots. That would have took a lot. Yeah, I tell you how much his opponent was. His opponent was that much not very good that Barry Hearn signed him last night.
So let me ask you,
What, Barry Hearn or Eddie Hearn?
Eddie Hearn signed him last night.
What, he signed a Mexican?
Yes.
Are you sure about that?
Yes. I read about it today.
So go on, Simon. Run a little check on that for me. Did Barry Hearn sign a Roscoe? Sorry, Eddie Hearn. Did he sign a Roscoe last night? After, because it's interesting if he did. Because what would he want to do? That guy, it was ranked number 205 on the BoxRec computer. You know, the BoxRec rankings out of about 12 or 1300 welterweights.
I read today that he signed him, and one of the comments he said is, with the right people and the right management, this kid is going to go a long way.
That's very interesting if it's the case. Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, he looked like a good opponent to me, and I'm not. Listen, it's difficult for me to post anything about Conor Benn on my Facebook page without inviting a storm of comments about the stigma that is now attached to his name. Some of them are intelligent, you know, in their objections, and some of them are just knee-jerking and saying scumbag, drug cheat, whatever. I do admit that he's got it worse, and other fighters who tested positive in the past, we could reel off a bunch of names. Conor really seems to be personal with him, whether he's a drug cheat or not. But looking at it dispassionately as a boxing performance, I thought when you see a kid who's been out the ring for whatever reason for nearly 18 months, I thought it was exactly what the doctor ordered for him. And he did look good. What's interesting is he didn't look that great. I don't know if you watched him when he first turned pro, like really early years, when he didn't look as naturally talented as he clearly is, because
in leaps and bounds, and that's what, like you say, Ben. He's a young, he's a young professional, really. But I mean, I read behavior as most people. If Conor Benn took, PEDs, then he's a sociopath. I really genuinely believe this kid. I believe things can happen, mistakes. I don't think he can intentionally. I think he's been absolute. Things happen. Who knows? We'll get to the bottom of it. Hopefully one day it will come out. But I believe that this kid is a genuine kid. I mean, and the amount of abuse and the amount of, and I don't even know if it was a, minute amount that can affect anything, or who knows what it is. But
the problem is, Gary,
when he talks about it, it's so genuine. He is
what
genuine
do you know?
to me.
What do you know about clone morphine? The only reason I asked that is because I didn't know anything about it. I'd never heard of it until he tested positive for it. What people who know more about the whole area of
I know a little bit.
What everybody tells me, people who know more than I do about that subject in general of performance-enhancing drugs, they tell me the chances of ingesting it accidentally twice in 2 different tests in a certain time period is very, very unlikely. And they say it's one of those drugs you use when you take a cycle of steroids. You do it to balance out your natural testosterone production. And people said that it just wouldn't show up for any other reason. That's what some people insist. But that's the problem I have with it.
I don't know if that's the case. That's the case. But maybe this is why I mean Simon Jordan. I'm not other people. I can't remember exactly who. But there's got to be a team held responsible. He's not. I don't believe anyone's doing it on their own. And if he's not, and if he has a strength and conditioning coach, and these guys are on, they're like the fighters. They're trying to become the best strength and conditioning coach, get the best results. Who knows if someone's giving him something that he doesn't know he's had, or I just genuinely believe it's not. It doesn't seem to me like it's in his DNA to cheat. I think he's a good kid, and I think he's a strong mind. I love his attitude all the time, and that's what makes me believe in him. Is him, not the particular boxing.
You know what I feel.
I've had fights. I've had fights in the past that maybe I fought a guy who may be better than me, but I know I'll beat him. Why? Because of this. And I think Conor's got this. And I think there'll be times in his career when he might fight a better fighter, but he'll still beat him. And that's what I like about him. He has a quality, strength of mind. Yeah. And I don't think that kind of strength of mind is the guy who cheats. That's just me.
You know what? I think I wouldn't say anybody, but a great deal of people are capable of cheating. I know nothing about Conor Benn's case, any of that kind of stuff. So I'm only going to go on what the science says, right? And the science said that he cheated. Only the science, it's not my feelings. It's, you know what I mean?
Well,
They
the
said
science didn't say he cheated. The science said he had a substance in him, but we don't know how it got in him.
But
It doesn't say
that would
cheating.
be.
Let's
Yeah.
get
Well,
it
the-
accurate.
Saying you can't
Science
argue
didn't
with
say.
science.
The science doesn't say anyone cheats. It just says there's something in your system. Now you may have.
It says something that you could cheat with is in your system, and that means you have to eat it. That means you have to take it, and that means if you have to take it, it's not just like a one-time thing. It's like it's a consistent usage.
What if you go out to a party with all your mates and everyone's drinking and you're driving and your best mate at school, it's his birthday, and he says, have a drink. You say, no. And they put a little bit in your drink and you don't, it's in your system. You took it. I mean, things happen.
I don't think it's illegal. I don't think it's illegal to train on whiskey or rye or
no. But if you get it is illegal if you get a DUI. If someone pulls you up, you does a breathalyzer.
Yeah. But we're talking about.
I think this is probably more akin to getting pregnant in a jacuzzi because you shared a jacuzzi with someone who might have pleasured themselves. I think it's a bit more. It's as unlikely as that. I think.
Let me ask you a question: Is it?
I'm never going in another one.
Is it impossible for a strength and conditioning coach or someone who wants the best results with his work? Is it impossible that he gives him drinks or whatever, mixes the things and all the vitamin A, B, C?
I think it's
impossible.
You know why I think it's impossible, Gary? It's impossible because at that point, Conor would be saying something to his strength and conditioning coach. He'd be fired. He'd be out of there.
But the conditioning coach is never
put that in his drink unbeknownst to Conor.
But no one's going to admit to it at this point. So, but you can't. I just believe the kid's innocent. I do. I think something's happened. I don't know how it got in. Hopefully, we'll find out. I'll be wrong. I'll hold my hands up. I don't believe. I just don't see it in this kid. I think he's.
How do you see it proceeding, Gary? Because the situation at the minute, he's boxed last night in Florida. He's cleared the ABC, which is the American or the Association of Boxing Commissions. They said they asked the board, was he cleared before they okayed him for a license in Florida and Texas. He also has one. And they said he was cleared because it was the National Anti-Doping Panel that cleared him. But as you probably know, the British Boxing Board of Control and UKAD have both appealed that decision because they're not happy with it. They don't think they've got closure. They don't think they've had an explanation. What happens next? I mean, all right, he looked good last night. You know, he's up, but he's got over that. The nightmare.
He's allowed to fight in the US. He's allowed to fight in the rest of the world. He has a license to do so. He has an issue with England, but there's also something that no one's talking about. In the early stages when this all happened with the British Boxing Board of Control, I don't know the details, but Conor said he had issues with his father. He had issues, and there's always been something with the Benns. So he took a position, a very defensive position, which he maybe have regretted. It was like, fuck you to the board because of history. So he's had not himself, but his family, his father had history. So I think he thinks they have something in for him. So that complicates things.
Which I don't think they did because I think Nigel Benn was a huge British boxing hero. Conor Benn has always been a big box office fighter and very much the darling for a while. He was on all the shows with DAZN. He was getting the big. I mean, all right, I don't know how the British Boxing Board of Control felt about him per se, but it might be interesting for Michael to know that Nigel Benn, when he was coming up, he was initially managed by Burt McCarthy and then by Frank Warren for a while, and then he teamed up with a guy that will want to get on the show. His name's Ambrose Mendy. Gary knows him pretty well, I think. He's an absolute maverick. He's a black guy, but he came from the streets, but he had this style and profile. He was kind of like elements of a British Don King, but much less cartoony.
He could be the president, couldn't he? Of the he's like Obama.
Very charismatic.
Yeah, he's very, very. He has a hypnotic level of charm and eloquence. I would say that much. Now, anyway, they wouldn't give him a license, okay, Michael, to manage Nigel Benn. They said they didn't want him in there. He said it was because this organisation is institutionally racist, and they continually wouldn't license him. Then at one point, after Nigel Benn beat Aaron Barkley in a round in that quite controversial affair in Atlantic City, Nigel Benn got on TV. It must have been Sky TV probably then, could have been ITV, but either way, he was on the TV. And he ripped up what appeared to be his British Boxing Board of Control license. He said, if you're not going to accept my manager, and let me bring another black brother through, this is what I think of your license, and tore it all up, yeah?
Yeah.
But you know what it was? Apparently, it wasn't his license. When I first mentioned that to Ambrose, one of the first times I ever spoke to him on the phone, Spencer Fearon put me on the phone to him. I know him well today, but he said that was a Weetabix box actually, and apparently it wasn't. It wasn't the license. And then when the board called him to a disciplinary hearing about putting the game into disrepute and disrespecting us and tearing up your license on air, they produced the license perfectly intact. And he said that was a moment, I can tell you, because they were confused. They thought they'd watched this get torn to shreds.
Well, so there is history with the board, and I think it's affected. If someone's got a history with anyone's father, if someone has history with my father, I have an issue with them. So I think that comes into this Conor's actions. I think later he thought, you know what, this is my career, it's my life. I have to handle my affairs. I think he regretted, but I think he showed loyalty to his father. There's an issue, and so that did affect the decision. As it stands, he can fight where he wants, but he wants to come home. He wants to address the board. He wants to, and he said he's tried to, and they haven't given him his. Yeah, so I think it's all going to work itself out. But I would love him on English soil because he's a great English fighter, and there's some great fights that can fill these arenas.